Good morning, everyone. If you're having a midlife crisis, well, you're going to want to hear what this morning's guest has to say. We've all been conditioned to think that midlife age is practically a four-letter word connected with labels like old, over the hill, and losing it. Well, there are many myths about midlife that the author of this book says doesn't serve us well. Your Best Age Is Now was written, says its author, to help people overcome negative impressions about aging and help them live a more satisfying life. Our guest, Dr. Robi Ludwig, is a nationally known psychotherapist. Good to have you back on PIX 11 News.
Great to be here always, Marvin.
Now, your book, it focuses on women, but it also applies to men when you're dealing about midlife.
It's both. I suppose it feels like it's focused on women because women are very interested in topics like this and self-help books, but really it applies to men and women equally because there's the stereotype about midlife men, certainly, and it applies to women. So I wanted to address both genders.
Okay, let's define first, when does midlife begin and when does midlife?
It's a great question because it's a moving target, really, and it's getting older and older when we hit midlife. So it's anywhere between 40 and 45 now when people enter into midlife. And then when do they leave midlife? When they consider themselves old. So really, so never, right? Never if you do it right, then you can stay forever in midlife.
So, but there are so many, and you pointed out in your book, there are so many myths about midlife.
Right.
What are some of them?
It's all centered around loss. Losing it, you're losing your looks, you're losing your importance, losing your relevance, losing your marbles, losing your lover. And so this is the misconception that we really have about midlife culturally, in part because there's an over-idealization of youth. And this idea is youth is the only time of life when good things can happen. And it's simply not true. And the modern science is really dispelling these very old ideas. But it takes a while for these new concepts to really get incorporated into the psyche of both individuals and a culture.
But we're living, the times have changed dramatically. We have a greater life expectancy. Today, women and men look a lot younger than our great-grandparents.
That's right. And will continue to do so because of modern science. And it's taking all of us really longer to grow up. So when Gail Sheehy wrote Passages, which was really the first major book that addressed midlife, she said she hit her midlife crisis at 35. At 35, that's when people are just starting to get their lives started. They're starting to get married, starting to have children. So because it's taking us all longer to grow up, it's also taking us longer to age, which is a good thing, because the more that we can feel youthful, the more hopeful we are about our future and our future possibilities.
So much of it is, it's about attitude.
It's about attitude, but it's attitude based on science. So this idea that we're losing it, not true. We continue to create new brain cells. We continue to grow in terms of our personalities. We become more conscientious and agreeable all the way into our 60s. We're wiser. And if you do a survey, you will find that people in midlife tend to feel more confident about themselves. They know themselves better. They're able to plug into who they are, what matters. You know, I work with all age groups, and I see the struggles that happen in the 20s and in the 30s. And as people get older, they get more comfortable with themselves. And there are many who feel they look better now than they did when they were younger.
And they certainly do.
And they can, yes.
Now you offer guidance. You say women should, and men, reject the status quo and find new happiness and a couple of things that you propose. You say, first of all, they should identify false thinking.
That's right.
They should let go of stress. And the third one, take charge of your love life.
Yes, yes. So I have a strategy in my book, and my theory is the fountain of youth is borrowing from our adolescent energy. And so that's really a reboot. And part of what we do during adolescence in a positive way is we get in touch with our moxie. We're able to reject ideas that don't serve us well. So it's very important for people in midlife to say, I'm rejecting this idea about losing it, losing my looks, losing my mind, losing my opportunities, and really fight against that. And that's a really important piece of getting almost your mojo back,
So
saying
really,
yes to life.
It takes a lot of discipline, really, and a mindset. You've got to change the old mythical mindset and get a new one.
It's so important because what happens with this old mindset is that people internalize an expiration date, which is not healthy for anyone, and it's not accurate. I'm working as a spokesperson for ourtime.com, and we did a survey on people who are in their 50s, and it turns out that they want love, they believe in romance, they want marriage if they're single, they know what they want, they feel good about themselves in multiple areas of their lives, and perhaps if the romance piece isn't together, that's the part they want to focus on. They still want sex, they still want to date many times a week, and very often people can mature at different points, so the best relationship they have of their life can happen during midlife, and I've seen it with my patients.
So those folks having their first cup of coffee this morning, feel good about yourselves.
Well, and also to know that you can get prettier, you can get smarter, you can get wiser. We tend to see the glass as half full because of the changes that go on in our brain, in the amygdala. So if we know that midlife is a time to look forward to because we can feel more confident, we can have opportunities, that we are moving in a way that allows us to have more fun, then it really becomes a time of possibilities rather than an expiration date.
I want to cite something from your book because we are such a youth-oriented society,
Yes.
but you point out in your book there are ways that we can feel so much better about ourselves at midlife, and you point out one is stay relevant at work,
Yes.
very important.
Yes.
Find meaning and purpose, and lead a life of gratitude.
I really think instead of about age, it's about essence. And so if you're plugged into what you feel passionate about, that really helps us to feel energized. If we have a spiritual approach to life, we're looking at our life from a different perspective that helps us to not only feel victimized. So when we really incorporate all of these ideas, then we're really just more in sync with our life and our life purpose. And really it's all about enjoying yourself and having fun and knowing that that can continue to happen at every stage of your life if you approach it in the right way.
All sounds so reasonable, but
it is.
Look,
it is reasonable.
They're saving the fee of a therapy session right here this morning. But what guidance do you offer to the folks out there saying, this is interesting? How can I really achieve this?
Well, I think it's nice to know that even if you have not taken care of yourself in any way or had a negative feeling about midlife, you can change that now. And part of it is by taking just one step in the right direction. Figure out how you can take care of yourself. Eat better, exercise better. Know that when it comes to our genes, the choices we make in terms of lifestyle really do influence how healthy we are, how young we look, and the approach that we take to life. You have to have role models that are both younger and older. When it comes to relevancy, you can ask yourself, would I want me if I were meeting me? Am I relevant? Would I be valuable in a relationship, valuable at work? Because we have to do our part too in staying modern and knowing what's going on around us.
Just to amplify on that, former Mayor Ed Koch years ago told me the key to a long, productive life is remaining relevant.
It's
and
really
God bless
true.
him. He did to the very end.
He certainly did, and we all can.
Now, you point out in the book that midlife, and many people fear as each year advances, it's not the beginning of the end.
Right. It is not the beginning of the end, and very often it can be the beginning of the most amazing time of our lives.
Most productive part of your life.
Most productive because we tune into what we want. We tune into what matters. We're no longer doing things just because we have to or our parents think it's something we need to do. We get to know ourselves and listen to our soul in a very different way. Plus, we have so much experience. So we're able to problem solve differently, think differently, turn to people in our lives who are supportive of us. We know so many more people in terms of networking. Think about all the people we know by the time we reach midlife who could reach out to us and be a resource or guidance for us if we want to change directions in our lives. We have a little bit more money now during midlife. So we It's almost like when something's new, you don't know how to use it, but once it's a little bit older, you kind of get in sync and you know all the ins and outs. So that's similar to midlife. And if we change the mindset into we're getting better, I think we'd all have a lot more fun and we'd be healthier too.
But it's also very stressful. Also, for many of them, the kids leave the nest and they're on their own. There's the feeling of isolation. How do they overcome that?
Well, turning to friends, turning to the community, figuring out what your next step is. And you have to remember that midlife right now, people are not going through the same stages at the same time because of modern medicine. There are women who are having their first child at 50. So there are women who are grandparents at 50. There are women who are saying goodbye to their children going off to college, and then women who are becoming first-time parents.
Now, your book, Your Best Age is Now, an Inner Life Makeover. You call it, it's Botox for your brain.
It's Botox for the brain, and don't we all need that?
Dr. Robi Ludwig, always a pleasure.
Such
Good luck
a pleasure.
with your book.
Thank you so much.